Welcome back to the Gallachini Sports Show. I'm your host Cian Gallachini, and in this week's episode we're going to talk about a little of what we talked about last week. We're going to talk some more basketball. We're going to discuss some NBA playoffs, see if teams are just on the edge of making it, if they'll make it or not. We're also going to discuss a bit of football. We're going to review the City and Tottenham game, and we're also going to preview the Arsenal and Leeds game that's on today. So yeah, look, all I have to say is let's go right into it. Take note of, as I called last week, 7-time Tom Brady Super Bowl champion. That's phenomenal. I just want to big up myself for getting the prediction right. I just thought that, Kansas City defensively weren't going to be able to hold up with them, and fair play to Tampa with their defensive strategy. They did really well. So realistically, I just wanted to bring this up, not talk too long about American football, and just kind of big up myself for getting it right. And obviously, he's never going to see this, but congratulate Tom Brady, who may be my favourite athlete now. Not for winning 7 Super Bowls, but the antics of him at the Super Bowl celebration party. I actually went online and tried to buy that orange shirt he was wearing of him just throwing the Vince Lombardi trophy from one boat to another, had to be carried off the boat, and just general horseplay. He looked great. So now something that I don't think any Liverpool fan wants to talk about is Liverpool themselves. So for my prediction last week of a 0-0 first half, got that right. A 2-0 win. Nowhere near right with a 4-1 loss, and even then last night with having Leicester go and beat Liverpool 3-1, that collapsed in the final 10 minutes. I don't know what's wrong with Liverpool at the moment. It just seems a bit all over the place. Obviously they're missing Van Dijk and Gomez in the backs, but they're not scoring goals, and they still have all of mainly their midfield and their front three that they had last year. So I think it's more than just missing people. I think it's a personnel issue where they're having a hangover from winning and they're like, we don't need to. But I don't think that's that Liverpool team. We saw them be dominant for nearly 3 years straight. Champions League finals, Champions League, winning a Premier League. They really cared about winning the World Club Championship. Joe, they take winning seriously, and with these recent run of forms, you think there's definitely something underlying going on with Liverpool at the moment, that it's not just football related, because they're obviously individually all great footballers. So what is going on there, I wouldn't know myself, but we'll keep an eye on that situation as it unravels. So in terms of NBA, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the teams that are just outside of the playoff playing games at the moment and discuss how I think they're doing, if they have a chance of making the playing games, and what's been going wrong for them. So let's start off with the Eastern Conference. So kicking us off in the East Coast is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are currently sitting in 13th place. Their record is 10-17. They are 30th in offensive rating, which is last, and they're 22nd in defensive rating. So overall net rating, not that great. Although there is something about watching the Cavs that's just exciting. I've watched both games against the Nets. I've watched a game against the Bucks, both games against the Bucks. And I just think there is a lot of potential there with this Cavs team. They had a lot of injury issues with Garland being out, Kevin Love out, Larry Nance Jr. was out for a bit. So they have had some injury concerns. Colin Sexton seems to have taken a step up. He just seems like an offensive powerhouse, and he loves taking on everyone's best offensive player on the defensive end. He took on Kawhi the other night, and you can see him properly going for it. And even when Kawhi scored, he was just like, what can I do? But he really seems to care, which in modern NBA, a lot of people don't really seem to care all that much. So I think there is a future for the Cleveland Cavaliers to maybe make a playoff push. Not to go far in the playoffs, but at least make it. Obviously last week I met them, one of my most exciting teams and most fun teams to watch, but will they make the playoffs or even make the play-in game? I can't see it. Just because there are better teams there at the moment that I think would be there ahead of them. But next season is a big watch out for these guys, because Collins and Colin Sexton and Darius Garland will be a year older. I think they have moves to make because they have so many centres. They have Jared Allen, they have Kevin Love, who's power forward really, but another big. They have Andre Drummond. So they do have a lot of bigs, with needlessly so. So who knows? The Nets could be interested in one of those, making a bit of a trade there and getting a piece back. There could be moves for next season to be made there. So yeah, look, I think they're fun to watch, but I don't see them in the playoff game. Next up in the West, we have the Orlando Magic. The magic around Orlando, I feel, is that they're always a playoff catch-em team. 2 years ago, when the Raptors actually went on to win the NBA in round 1 of the playoffs, in game 1, they upset them. Same last season with the number 1 rated Bucks, they caught them in the first game too. So they have been in the playoffs the past few seasons. Right now, they're not even in the play-in game. Again, these guys have been having some COVID issues, they have been having some injury issues, but still a drop-off nonetheless. With this team, I honestly haven't been watching a whole lot of them. I've watched their games against the Bucks. I think they've only played one actually against the Bucks this season so far, and I cannot see this team making the play-in game. Maybe, okay, I can kind of see them somehow making the play-in game, but making the playoffs, no. The East is too much better this year. There's too many teams that are trying to make that jump forward. Like Charlotte are a team I can really see going for the playoffs this year. My number 2 most fun team to watch actually, who aren't even, they are in the play-in game spot at the moment. So will I think the Orlando Magic will be in the play-in tournament? I do not. So finishing us off in the East, we have the Chicago Bulls. They have a record of 10-15, and right now they are 16th in offensive rating and 23rd in defensive rating. So do I think the Chicago Bulls will make a push to make the play-in games? So the teams ahead of them right now, the 4 that are in the play-in games, are the Heat, the Knicks, the Raptors, and the Hawks. So would I see them leaping over one of those teams, or one of those 4 teams dropping off? Well, I see the Heat going forward more. They're too good. They were a finals team last year, and so I don't see them falling. I see them going higher. Same with the Raptors. They've been around the block too many times. Yes, they're missing pieces from their championship run. They're missing pieces from their playoff run last year, but they still have Nick Nurse as a coach, and I still think they'll find a way to stay. Probably not going up any further, but they'll have to be in the play-in games, and they're my pick to actually win the play-in tournament. Then in terms of the Knicks is the only team I could see falling down. They have been going well. They had a few good momentum winning games, but I just like the Chicago Bulls. The best way to describe them is they're like the kings of the East, and they're a really fun team. You have some young explosive players, but they're just not all together there yet. But I still can see the Bulls making the play-in game. So that's my lock, is we're actually going to have the Bulls breaking through that barrier and making the play-in game. So now if we look at the West Coast, starting us off in the 13th position, we have the Houston Rockets. So the Houston Rockets, they're right now 11-14. Now what's interesting about the Rockets is the fact that they are 26th in overall offense, but 2nd overall in defense. They're a really hard-working defensive team, as I mentioned last week. They are a team of guys who have been doubted and a team of guys who have been wrote off, so their effort levels are great to see. I was only watching them during the week, and even though they were missing Victor Oladipo, I still like what they have to offer, as long as everyone does remain healthy. And that is why the team has been rolled off so many times, is a lot of the team have had injury issues. John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins and the likes. So will I see this team making a run and getting up closer to the play-in game? I don't think so. I think they'd be just as happy tanking the rest of the season and getting a high draft pick. They are in rebuild mode. But I do like what Stephen Silas has been doing, getting that good culture of defensive play. So any young rookies that do come in the future will be surrounded by that hard-working defensive mindset, which will only benefit them more in the future. Hopefully then seeing them in the future as a contender again. I'm not the biggest fan of Houston. I wasn't a big fan of the whole James Harden experience. But you gotta respect hard-working defense and bouncing back when everyone thought you were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I still don't see them in the playoff game, but I still think they do deserve a good shout out. So next up in the 12th spot we have the New Orleans Pelicans. Now they are also have the same record as the Rockets. They are 11-17. They are 11 and 17, but they are 7th in offensive rating. And how could you not when you have players like Zion Williamson, when you have players like Brandon Ingram, who's having a career season. You also have Lonzo, who's starting to come into his own offensively, making shots, assisting as per usual. You have a lot of weapons on that team. Eric Bledsoe has nights for himself. He goes missing most of the time. God, I know it as a Bucks fan. That man would just go missing in playoff moments when you need him most. But regular season, he'll pop up for high-scoring games, which is probably what has jolted him up to 7th. But if you look at them defensively, right now they're 26th in defense, and that's where the issue lies with these guys. I don't think they fully have an identity yet, and that 26th in defense, that is shocking when you consider Van Gundy has always prided his teams on defense, but now they're 26th in defense. And I look sometimes and I wonder, is it an effort thing? Because Zion back in college, he was always jumping for blocks, closing out, but he seems to be a little sluggish on defense. Is it either afraid of getting hurt? Is it that he's just not up to the NBA level? I don't think that at all. I do think he is a generational talent. I still think there's something defensively going on with that team. Steven Adams isn't a nice fit on that team. He does some good things for you, but he's too big to have alongside Zion and Brandon Ingram, where it gets to the stage where the paint is too clogged and they can afford to leave shooters open, because that means you're left with like 2 shooters, and if Lonzo's on the court, he's getting better, but they still, like, defenders don't respect him enough to close him out. So with all of these kind of defensive and sometimes offensive issues, even though they are 7th, but sometimes, as I said, they'll leave Lonzo shoot the shot. With all these issues in place, I can't see him making the play-in game. As much as I'd love to, I'm wholly holding out hope that the Kings and the Pelicans face each other this season, because I have 2 friends who support them, and I think that would be one of the most fun games. And closing us out in the West Coast, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, who actually were in contention for the play-in game last year and who actually lost to Portland. So I think Memphis this season obviously have Ja Morant, who is a bona fide superstar. He's fantastic. They are struggling at the moment, obviously not even in contention to make the play-in game. They're 11th right now. They did, over COVID, lose a few games. They're only 10 and 11 at the moment, having played, I think, probably the least games in the whole of the NBA. So they have a few games to catch up on. That being said, the teams who are ahead of them are Denver, they have Sacramento, you have Golden State, and you have Dallas, who are finally making that push back up. I can't see it for them. I think the teams who are already in the play-in game at the moment will be the ones who will be there. And that's, as I said, I think Sacramento are making the playoffs this season. So I'd be a fool to say they're not going to make the play-in game, because how would that work? I can see Golden State, Steph's just too good. Dallas, Luka's too good, and they're finally starting to bounce back and get a bit of unity there. And then, of course, with Denver, they made the Western Finals last year. How can they not drop that far down? So unfortunately for any of fans of those Western Conference teams who think maybe there's a chance, who am I to say, but I just don't think there's a chance right now. East, possibly. In the East it's a bit more open, but right now I think the West is pretty much a lock of who's going to be making the playoffs. So a preview of the big match tomorrow. Well, a big match in my eyes is Arsenal versus Leeds. Arsenal without a win in their last 3 games, and Leeds a bit more on form with winning 3 of their last 5. It is a big game for Arsenal, because a loss tomorrow will truly mean looking like no European places, let alone top 4, but no Europa League place either. Leeds are already ahead of us in the table, and a loss tomorrow, that'll be them 4 points ahead of us. Then if you look at Aston Villa, have 2 games in hand, and then so on and so forth on above the table. This is do or die time for us. Our games coming up after this game is too hard. I think our easiest game of the next 4 is against Burnley, but we also have City, who are on form currently, as I'm recording this, 2-0 up against Tottenham and running riot. So yeah, I really think Arsenal need to win it. There's no Kieran Tierney still, which I'm very concerned about. Well, one, he's always injured. The man is made of glass. How can he be the next big thing at left back for us if he's never on the pitch to do it. Also, if he is that injury prone, why haven't we got a replacement left back over the winter transfer period? Liverpool went and got a left back, and did they really need one? They have Robertson. We have one that's injured and has been injured for the whole since Christmas pretty much, and what's going on there. I think there's a lot wrong with Arsenal at the moment. I think the season's going to be a write-off for us really. Or already gone from the FA Cup, not a chance for making top 4, looking like if we lose today that we're not going to be making a Europa League spot, and I honestly can't see us going on winning a Europa League. So realistically this summer is going to be a big one for us. But yeah, Leeds on the other hand have really done well in their first season in the Premier League. They've been praised, and rightfully so, for their going forward. They're a very good attacking team. Defensively, I do understand what the critics are saying. They're leaving themselves too open, but hey, if they're ahead of Arsenal, they must be doing something right. Maybe we should try that. And as for my prediction for that match, I think you know by my face what I'm going to say. 2-1 Leeds. Arsenal are going to go out and lose. But I got a goal somehow. But I can't see us winning. And then in the match then that I feel has pretty much wrapped up the Premier League is just City destroying Tottenham 3-0. Just Gundogan, what a player. His movement off the ball has improved so much, and that's what's getting him all these goals. But just City in general defensively, even with Ruben Diaz, who's probably been their best defender, going out, they can slot in Emerick Laporte alongside John Stones with a resurgence. You have everyone else then off the ball. Phil Foden playing well on the wing, Raheem Sterling playing well, Bernardo Silva playing well. It's just a fantastic team and actually a joy to watch. I might be a bit early wrapping up the Premier League for them. I know United fans and Leicester fans won't be too happy with me saying that, but you have to watch them and you have to applaud them and say, do you know what? We lost to the best team in the league, and I'd actually like to see them push on in the Champions League a bit, maybe even get to a final or something. I think they deserve it because of the football they play, and I know a lot of people don't think they deserve it because of the whole buying the league, but that's just what football is these days. So unfortunately, get used to it and just appreciate a good team when you see one. So that concludes this week's episode of the Gallachini Sports Show. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, leave a comment if you have any topics or any sports in particular you want me to talk about. And until that, catch you on the flip side.